This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Yo, what's happening, Mike? What do you got going on? You always got some crazy stuff going on in your life, man. Always busy doing something.
Listen, I tell you, people don't know how we keep it on the move, but you just got to take my word that we keep it on the move. Soccer game earlier today, little soccer game action. My daughter has a friend over right now for a little play date. Just had dinner with one of her friends, and time to do the podcast. The time that I carve out of my week to come here and be with the community, be with the Sweep the Rack people. A lot of speculation tonight. I'm not sure it's going to be a fun episode tonight. I don't know.
We always seem to make it fun, regardless of.
We try.
We try.
I feel like it's tough.
Yo, I was sick this week. I came down Wednesday morning with like the flu type sickness. Had like 102 fever for like 2 days. And let me tell you something. There's only a few times in my life where being single sucks. And one of them is when you're like fever, flu sick in bed. Because you're by yourself and yo, it sucks. Like you gotta like get up and do things. Life doesn't stop. You don't have people like getting like that's the one time in your life where I'm like, man, it'd be nice to like have a girlfriend or a wife to be able to just like help me out. And then once I feel better, I'm like, man, I don't know. I was crazy thinking that fever got in my head. like I don't know what I was thinking those last few days. But yeah, so I just want to start the episode with that to like lighten it up a little bit because this episode's going to kind of be a little bit of a tough one, I think, to talk about because I think like when there's smoke, there's fire in certain instances. So I'm not sure where you want to go, but I know Jeff Richgels put out that article, and I don't know if you want to get right into it, but
yeah, well, no. I know the people are going to be heavily disappointed. No league review this week. I won't be bowling league for the next 2 weeks either. But after that, I should be back, and I should be bowling pretty regularly for the rest of the season. Yeah, just two, soccer tryouts. I said to people before, so got to wrap that up, see where we're at, and then I'll be back to league bowling. But no league report for the people. Yeah, so I guess we can jump right in, and the people in the chat are skid hook roll in the chat says, "Give me free fall or give me death."
well,
I hear you.
I think bowling. I think there's a lot of give me death at this point, because we'll talk some string pins. I think that's on the agenda.
We'll get to it. But there's more important things to discuss, and let's be clear, speculate about tonight. Okay.
All speculation.
Speculation.
Except for the string pins.
Richgels' article was a lot of speculation, I would say. Now, I definitely feel that because of the quality of the source there, you can probably read between the lines a little bit if you're paying attention. But I guess we should lay it out for the people. Yes, because Jeff does have his stuff behind a paywall, and we would never go as far as to like post his articles on our pages or something like that. Nor are we going to read the whole article, but do you want to give the things that stuck out to you, and then I'll
Sure.
kind of give the things that stuck out to me?
So I guess some of the highlights of the article, in my opinion, were the fact that one, he's just kind of speculating in the sense that Fox, they haven't announced the renewal for the agreement yet, right? And when he reached out to Tom Clark to ask about the agreement with Fox or when there might be some kind of extension, Tom then kind of punted him to Lucky Strike. And Lucky Strike never got back to Jeff about anything. So it's been really quiet on their end. So I think you could start making speculation just based off of kind of silence is speaks a lot of words in a sense, I guess.
Yeah, I believe Jeff in his article as well gave some background as to what previous comment had been in conversations that he had with Tom Clark, and that the nature of those comments changed. And he felt that, and I might be, I'm not quoting him here for sure, and I might even be speculating as to the meaning of what he was saying now, but to me it seemed like he was saying that recently the tone of the answers had changed.
Yeah, I think the vibe is the word he used, right? Vibe.
I don't want to. I'm not quoting him in any way. I want to be clear about that. But I think he said something to that effect.
Yeah,
in the article.
Yeah, it was a different vibe in 2023 when they signed their 2-year compared to the vibe in 2025. And I mean, I have to kind of trust Jeff on that, right? Because Jeff is pretty close to a lot of what's going on with a lot of these type of stories, right? Like,
and
so
he's also a true reporter. Like, let's be clear about that too. So he knows the due diligence that's needed in a situation like this to accurately and officially report the story or be able to write something of the nature that he writes. So yeah, I think it's important to say that. What stuck out to me, in addition to what you pointed out, certainly what you pointed out stuck out to me. But what stuck out to me was some of the theorizing that he did about what it might mean if the PBA does not have the TV deal with Fox, right? And he gave a lot of different scenarios, I would say, but I don't really feel like any of them were that great, and most of them definitely, I think, made clear that you'd be looking at a really reduced prize fund in some way. So I guess, where do you want to pick it up, Rob? Do you want to kind of go down that road of what if?
yeah, because I mean, we could look at it too in the sense of like, well, first off, in Jeff's article he wrote, there still could be an extension made, right? Like, this is all hypothetical. There isn't really, there's more just they haven't heard anything. And in previous years, in 2023, Tom Clark was pretty confident about them signing an extension. I believe he was on a podcast that wasn't ours, but it was in June. And he expressed the confidence in June, and then the 2-year extension was announced in August, right? So I think the confidence from Clark wasn't there, and I feel like that's also like why maybe Jeff was like, well, what's going on? Like, prior in 2023, Tom was pretty vocal on a podcast about being confident. Now he's not. So now it's started to be like, oh God, like, what if worst case scenario happens, right? And there's a lot of layers to this, right? Because
I think what you're saying is because there's nothing definitive out there, people are naturally going to start to think about what if.
I mean, right? Isn't that a right? Like, people have the right to think that way, right? I mean, all speculation, because it's a worst case scenario, I think, because I personally don't think there could be a better TV deal right now for bowling than what Fox has at the current moment for this year and the last couple years since 19 when they started. It's a great deal. I mean, we have essentially too much TV time, right? Like, there's been times when we've asked Tom Clark about the TV times, and they've had to like fill some shows, right? And they've had to fill hours that they were trying to. So I don't think that, in my opinion, unless they re-sign with Fox and they go somewhere else, like, I don't think they're going to have the same type of deal where they're going to have a local, like a CBS, NBC, and we can go down the layers, because a TV deal affects everybody. It affects Lucky Strike, right? It affects the money they're going to put into the PBA. It affects the bowlers, right? And it affects the fans more than anything too.
It could affect the schedule as well.
Affects everything. A TV deal affects everything, and there's so many layers to, like, I think dominoes here, in my opinion, right? Where if there isn't a Fox deal, let's just say, let's go down this road, Mike, and I'll ask you, like, let's just say Fox says, you know what, we're done, right? We're not getting the ratings we want. We're not getting the money we want coming in. We're going to use that time for other things. Go out and find another network or another streaming. If you're Tom Clark in the PBA and you're Lucky Strike at this point, like, what do you do? Like, what roads? I mean, you have to you have to explore every option at this point. No, like,
well, let's talk about some of the options. No, ESPN, they're not going back there. You know, and again, you know, I don't want to keep going back to Jeff's article, but I also don't want to make it seem like, you know, I'm here pandering his viewpoints as mine. But he did mention in his article that, you know, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. They already were with ESPN. What are the chances that they're going to go back with the organization they were already with? And when they were with ESPN, things were not really that great anyway, especially at the end, right? Let's talk about CBS Sports Network, right? They already air one event for the PBA, I believe, right, with the PBA Tour Finals, if I'm correct. And they air some of the PWBA as well, if I'm correct, right? So perhaps, you know, you might have something there.
on that point, though, CBS, though, on that point, I would be okay with CBS Sports only if they aired the majors on big CBS, like kind of how Fox Sports 1 would book the shows, and then they would put the majors on Fox. The problem with CBS Sports to me is that that's a kind of a weird channel that not a lot of people get, and I'm afraid that, yes, is it still a TV? Like, bowling would still be on TV. I think that it would cut a lot of people out from watching it because they don't have CBS Sports with their, like, cable package.
Right. Okay. Well, to me, the point you just made about that, a lot of people are talking about streaming services in the chat, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the point you just made about, you know, like, lack of people that are going to have access to that particular platform to watch bowling, that's a point I'm going to come back to when we talk about some of the streaming services that, you know, as people are saying in the chat, and I agree with them to a large degree, are probably the future of where these sports are going to be, right? So back to other options, right? ESPN, CBS Sports Network. I heard WB sports network being thrown around. So I heard someone saying that they're currently trying to get sports as part of their package and what they do. So I'm not sure about that. Kevin in the chat just mentioned True TV. They dabble in sports. I don't know. I mean, do any of these seem like viable options? You know, I don't. I don't. To me, CBS Sports Network, I guess, does because there's already sort of that relationship there with the sport. But again, you know what the details of that look like and how that impacts things, as you already mentioned, would have to be seen as well, right? So that's kind of the TV side. Yes. Then we could talk about the streaming side.
I think the streaming side to me is where you're going to want to at least focus efforts originally to see if you could even get interest from some of the big streaming services. And I say that because right now I'd say majority people have certain streaming memberships. Netflix, I'd say Amazon Prime, right? I'd say are two probably the biggest streaming services. And then you could put maybe a few others, but I know Netflix has kind of started dabbling in live sports. Amazon Prime is doing live sports. YouTube TV is even something that maybe, but like
Max is as well. HBO's app. They've
correct.
been doing some of the tournament games.
And I'm not saying like that's going to be easy for bowling because it's probably not. I don't even know if they would take a phone call at this point. You might need a relationship or someone to even entertain it at one of those streaming platforms. I don't think it's as easy as just calling them and being like, "Hey, like we're free agents. Can you bring us on?" I don't think that's the way it's going to be. I think bowling is just kind of a niche sport and a niche like industry, and I think it's going to have to be some kind of like secondary platform that's not like, I hate to say it, but like a main streaming platform.
So a couple people in the chat while you were making that point,
Yeah.
Rob, are pointing out to me, this is the network I meant. Sorry, I misspoke there before. CW channel, Jim and Mike mentioned that in the chat. So that's the one that I heard being mentioned as a possibility because they seem to want to build their sports profile on that network. Here's the problem with the streaming for me, Rob. Bowling has already been in the streaming game somewhat, right? With Flow Sport, first with Extra Frame, then with Flow Bowling, now with Bowl TV, right? And again, mentioned in Jeff's article, the subscriptions have never been through the roof by any stretch.
I think
so. Just hold on, hear my point.
Yeah.
So if one of these streaming services, wants to do a deal with the PBA with Bolero to bring bowling to one of these streaming services, it's not something that I have to question what the reason would be, because they can't be looking at it like, oh, we're going to add subscribers based on bringing on bowling. I mean, I could the one answer that I could put out there would be that they say, this is a way to add to our sports profile, and a lot of people who watch bowling are probably already subscribers of ours, right? But I don't know where those crossovers are, obviously, right? You figure a lot of people have Netflix, a lot of people have Amazon Prime, the big ones. The smaller ones, though, again, I don't know how many people are actually going to say, oh, yeah, I already belong to Bowl TV, but I'm going to pay another X amount a month to be able to watch bowling shows, quote unquote TV shows, on this small streaming service, right? And I'm gonna pass it to you after this, but that kind of brings me to the next point about the streaming. And like, what if it's just Bowl TV? where does that kind of leave things? So go ahead, follow up on what I said, and if you want to continue the Bowl
Yeah.
TV conversation from there, I guess you can as well.
I have a lot of thoughts here, but I think Netflix would have to do more. Like, I'm using Netflix, for example. We all have Netflix to a certain degree. A lot of people do. I don't want to assume everybody does because it's getting more expensive these days. And I think a lot of you would imagine the bowling fans that are going to want to watch bowling already have Netflix subscriptions. Okay, let's just say that's the case. Netflix is going to have to like kind of buy into the PBA and maybe put together some outside programs and put them on like Netflix to garner more interest in the live bowling.
So a sport where they not only own the rights to showing the sport, but they're also producing extra content for the sport.
Correct. And I think that you need a buy-in from Netflix on that, which would be a very, very hard thing to do. I don't see Netflix jumping to the gun or, really being eager to do something like that, right? I mean, they'd have to the PBA would have to sell it to the like they'd have to sell to the stars, right? I think, Mike, and you're gonna love this point, but I think Tom Clark and the PBA, they need to really, really start selling the betting part of bowling into this. They really need to consider that if that's the case, because there's such a market for bowling for people to bet on it. And I think that needs to be marketed to streaming platforms where it's like, look, like we only are gambling in these amount of states. And I see this, the future of where bowling is going. And if you really focus, or if we partner with some kind of like bigger platform for betting, we can get that involved. And I think there is a lot of room for growth in the sport, right? So I think if you're a marketing right now for the PBA, or you're trying to figure out where you're going to go, and if this is, we're all speculating here, right? But if it's all speculation and this doesn't happen with the Fox, then you have to like try to separate yourself and show some of these big streaming networks like Amazon and Netflix and whatnot that this isn't going to be just us airing or streaming a bowling show. Like, we're going to have to create some outside content on the players, more behind the scenes footage of like Drive to Win or with that FS1 like racing show. We're going to have to maybe market the players, and then we're going to have to focus on partnering up with some bigger betting platforms and market that as well. And there might be room for us to turn this $11 million product into a $50 million product in 10 years.
I mean, I love what you're saying, but I'm going to ask the same thing that Keith Lesko in the chat is asking here. Like, why would a streaming service invest that much? Like,
right.
Why would the streaming service want the PBA in that way? Like with the way things have gone, I mean, what you're saying would be incredible, but I think what you just described would probably be a huge upgrade from where they're at now.
Well, that's the thing is,
and I just don't see an upgrade coming here.
I don't, and I'm just being like optimistic. Where you're gonna, like I said before, you're gonna have to sell us to the stars, right? You're gonna have to like have this and hit it out of the park when you're selling these ideas.
All right, I want to go in a little bit of a different direction here for a minute. We'll circle back around. Lou thinks that the PBA should be on Dougie Vision. I mean Lou, you want to know? I know that you're laughing as you type that comment in, but the truth of the matter is that he would be really entertaining. I mean, if you gave Dougie access to the PBA show and let him do his thing, he would actually provide real entertainment, and it would be different from what they have always done in the past. And I think at this point, different is good. Rob, a point about betting and bowling. I was thinking earlier today, because I knew we were having this episode and I knew we were going to be talking about, and I was thinking like, what's why do people not see how great bowling is as a betting opportunity, as a sport, right? Why do people not see that, and how can you get them to see that? And one way that I thought you could sell it to people. I really think this is a unique angle. There's no referees involved. There's no calls involved. The result is the result. People bet on football and basketball, but the umps make bad calls, the refs make bad calls that lose you the game, win you the game. In bowling, there are no bad calls. That's one way that I might sell it, right? As a great opportunity for gamblers to bet on. But all right, we have some comments here.
Mike, it's just marketing, though. It's just a market.
Right, it is. You're right.
There's no
It's
marketing in the
and
betting.
letting people hear about it. I know.
There's
I
no
understand.
marketing on the betting side.
I understand.
How many people reached out to us, Mike, and we're like,
I know.
wait, you could bet on bowling? Like,
we've talked about this at length. Like, we would do things so much differently. So much differently. I mean, to me, betting would have already been a major focus of what they should have been doing since Bet Rivers started to regularly post the odds for bowling. There should be a little, even if it's on YouTube or whatever. How are YouTube outlets doing pregame shows that involve discussion of betting, but the PBA is not? I mean, I'll basically leave it at that. This is a bad situation, Rob.
yeah, and I don't want to get
situation. I mean, where like
there's still optimism here that
there is, but
they could sign.
In terms of the question of where do they end up if this deal is dead, is there aren't a lot of positive answers to that question. I feel like
there isn't. I feel like there's a few things here too we need to talk about.
All right, let's bring up some comments real quick. Kevin says in the chat, Bowl TV does a great job, but it's game over if it's just Bowl TV.
I agree with that.
You agree? I mean, and
I do.
Can you so you define game over then, Rob?
I define game over as it just becoming like a PBA 50 version of the PBA Tour, where there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money. Maybe let's just call it $10,000-$15,000 for a tour stop win. The USBC, the majors could be different because USBC has different money coming in different places. But all the other tour stops could be a lot less money, less tour players. I can't imagine like a tour player like Belmonte flying overseas.
That brings me to the next question I was going to bring up, right? Mike Ware in the chat says, what happens to Belmo and the other international players? Will they still come over if it's limited prize funds? You want to comment on that, Rob?
I don't think so. I don't think at least someone like Belmo is going to leave his family and fly all those miles to come overseas to bowl. Let's just call it like 10 tournaments, unless he's just, title chasing to put himself in the record books. But it's a good question. I would be more curious to ask them, obviously. My opinion, though, I think you'll see a lot less people on tour than we normally would see.
Okay. Mike in the chat says, if the PBA is on a lesser network or streaming service, what is first place? 10,000, 20,000? What would 10th pay? Load of cash. Money's already tight on tour outside the top few spots. Comment, Rob.
Well, that would be up to Lucky Strike, right? Because, and Jeff put this in his article, and this has all been a marketing. The PBA has been a marketing expense for Lucky Strike, right? They said that they're paying $1 million and they're getting $10 million worth of marketing or something like that, right? And if they're not on Fox and it's not on Fox Sports 1 anymore, then where is the marketing coming from? Does Lucky Strike?
That's a great point. Can we talk about? Go ahead. Talk about that for a minute.
Does Lucky Strike decide to scrap the PBA if the Fox deal, if they don't get a deal, or if it's on Bowl TV?
Explain why you're saying that, Rob.
Because they're not going to get the marketing of the commercials anymore on Fox.
Well, I think it's also important to go a little further, and mention that the owner, Tom Shannon of Lucky Strike, has been clear that the PBA is a marketing arm of Lucky Strike. Yes, and that is mainly why they bought it. It allows them to not only advertise the sport, but advertise their centers. And if they're not getting what Rob is saying here, folks, is that if Lucky Strike is not getting what they feel is a marketing return on the PBA, then and Rob, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I feel like what you're saying is there might be a distinct possibility that they just decide to stop supporting it across the board.
Yeah, and I think the scary part of it would be is like, I don't know how it would work though, because what if they decided they're going to keep it, but they're not going to like sell it to anybody?
Well, Jeff mentioned this in his article as well, and that's part of the issue here is that they not only own the PBA, they own the rights to everything. So if they just want to put it in a closet somewhere and leave it in a box, there's not much that people can do about that. All right, bring up another comment. Ring and 10, Jimmy, what's good? He suspects that Bolero will take over production like they did for their own TV shows that they were running for the pros versus amateurs.
So you think they would double down and they would spend more? They would spend more money.
And where's it going to air, happening. Jimmy?
Do you see Lucky Strike putting more money into it, Mike?
No,
I don't. I think it's already hard to understand how much money you're getting back on your return on your dollar on marketing expenses as it is.
Okay. Jimmy asked you another question. I can hear myself too, Rob. I don't know if you could turn your thing down. Jimmy mentions, would the ball companies become the sole backer for the prize funds? Somebody else mentioned before, where are the ball companies going to go if they're not on TV and they're not getting the exposure? Are they going to pay the large product registration fees that they usually have to pay? And if they don't, how does that impact things? I mean, there's so many questions here, honestly.
There's so many what ifs. It's uncertain. It's an uncertain time right now. Guess if I'm a player on the PBA Tour right now, I'm a little nervous. I'm not a lot nervous, but I'm a little nervous. Especially, I mean, it's just all players, right? And I'm not even gonna I'm not even gonna identify a few players that would be obviously the top players in the world, guys like EJ Tackett who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars right now bowling on tour. Like that pay could significantly decrease based on what happens in the next few months, right? 6 months on this deal, because a lot depends on this deal, the TV deal, right? And Lucky Strike's investment into the PBA likely is all from the TV deal. So this whole thing could crumble real fast. Ringing 10 says, what would Bill do if the tour folded next year? Look, some of these guys are smart. They've been putting their money in the right places. They're in good situations. The companies are still going to be behind a lot of these players. And I think there's still going to be jobs for them at these ball companies. But yeah, it's still going to significantly, financially hurt them, right?
He's going to join 7 house leagues and beat up on Mama Mia and Papa Pia night in and night out.
No, Bill
for handicap bracket money.
Bill hates bowling on house shots, by the way, and he never could strike on house shots. We used to always laugh when he used to sub or something. He used to always bowl like 650, and he would just 10 pin all for 3 games. But yeah, Mike, I just hate this is a tough time. It just waiting to see what happens. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow or this week and find out that they reached another 2 or 3 year agreement, and then everything's all good. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Like, you think this deal, you think, I mean, what is your gut saying about the Fox deal? You think, is it done? You think, or there's,
I don't know. I have no idea. I just read Jeff's article, and I view him as somebody who wouldn't be taking the time to write an article if he didn't think there were reason to write an article, right? To put it plainly. So it definitely gets my attention. And yeah, I think it leads to a lot of speculative thoughts, a lot of speculative ideas about where things are headed and what that might mean. I don't have a good feeling about it. You know, I don't. I feel like it's been on the uptick. You know, and I think especially within the bowling community, we've been pretty positive about the direction that things have been headed in the last couple of years. And it would just it would really just, you know, make sense with the way things have gone for bowling in general, for the rug to kind of get pulled out from underneath. Right.
You see, Tim Foy's in our chat, loved him. I feel bad for guys like Tim who are just coming into theirs on the PBA Tour, right? And then all of a sudden now this whole TV deal is kind of like looming, right? Like, this guy has worked so hard to get on the tour, gets on tour, makes everything he can out of being there this year, right? Like, he's done everything he could.
Right.
He's really taken advantage of the opportunity of the exemption. And now, like, this whole thing is like, what is going to happen, right? Like, we don't even know what's going to happen next year. And that sucks, right? Mike, you even talked about this podcast stopping if the on Twitter you even drop like, hey, are we going to stop doing this podcast? And I'm just like, I don't know. I think people would need us more than ever if all of a sudden there was no TV deal. And
yeah, and Jimmy's in the chat, and he says that he imagines that a network would want to pick them up, and I get that, but that's why I wanted to have the discussion of, you know, what are the options here? What are the realistic options, right? If it's not Fox, then what are the realistic?
So,
options?
Mike, I AI'd a bunch of secondary kind of special niche networks that wouldn't be like mainstream platforms. That and my question was like, what are some of the more niche networks that play live sports for smaller type sports? And here's what was populated: CBS Sports Network, Stadium. I've never heard of Stadium. Fubu Sports Network, Bally Sports, Be In Sports, the CW Sports, Outside TV, Outside Plus, even brought up Flow Sports. I don't think they're going Flow Sports. I'm just going to probably make that guess. And then some other stuff, like some weird stuff that I've never heard of, like World Chase Tag, Whistle Sports. I mean, let's just use something like Fubu Sports Network, right? I just, at that point, you're probably just better off staying on Bowl TV. Like, me personally, if I'm Tom Clark, I mean, you know what my first phone call is? And if I'm Lucky Strike, my first phone call is to ABC. You look, bowling and ABC had such a great run.
Get back with your ex. The new girl dumps you and you get back with your ex.
We were on ABC Wide World of Sports for how many years when we grew up as kids?
Right.
Right. And bowling was great back then. My first call would be to them and be like, look, like, hey, what do you think? Saturday afternoon, ABC, Wide World Sports, like, let's bring back bowling, right? That would be my first phone call. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how many of these major networks are going to be interested in picking up the phone. That's the issue, right? Like, that's the problem is what is PBA selling power? Like, if the PBA if like these big major streaming networks and shows, if they're watching the PBA shows this year, right? And if they put that one show on, Mike, with all the international players at the World Series of Bowling, let's just say randomly they put on that one show that literally you were falling asleep mid-show, and like the place it seemed dead quiet in there. There was no like interest. Like, it just was a really flat show. I'm going to be like, why would I want this? You know, so that's kind of the problem. I think is going to be like getting the interest from some of these big channels like an ABC or an Amazon Prime, a Netflix to even think about it.
I don't know. I don't have much speculation about where they might end up, and while I agree with several people in the chat, Lou being the most recent to say this, while I do agree that they're likely to end up somewhere, I guess is the way I would put it.
Dude,
I think the real question to me is what is the ultimate impact of where they end up, right? Because the answer to that question is going to do more to determine where things go than anything else, right? Because they might be able to find a new home, but what does that look like? Does it look, more lucrative than what they have now? Less lucrative? How much less lucrative? How much less involved? I mean, there's just so many questions here. But like you said earlier, Rob, I do believe that whatever they do, they got to go the angle of gambling. They got to go the angle of gambling and make it more gambling friendly and try and turn the gamblers onto it, drive that to it.
Potential though. That's where the selling point for me is. If I'm a marketing, like head of marketing for the PBA, and I'm going in front of a major TV or streaming service, right? Look, like, forget everything we've done in the last how many years, right? We have a huge potential here to get bowling involved in betting in numerous states that aren't really allowed in right now, and we could drive a lot of new viewers just based on that. Tim, you want to read that?
Yeah, Tim Foy's in the chat. He asks, as a fan, did you guys enjoy the All-Star Show? Are events like that helpful? And I assume, Tim, that you mean, are they helpful to promoting the product of the PBA? So, and I'm just being honest with you, man. Like you're an East Coast guy. I'm not going to BS. I'm not into those events. I don't really like them. I'm only going to speak for myself. I would much rather see a regular standard event. Darren Barlow's in the chat. I agree with him. Do you mean the string machine commercials, Tim? I think you could also say the identity infomercial as well, I think, is another line that I might give there. But I like the concept of some kind of all-star event. I definitely think that the best guys on tour should be recognized. Problem for me is I think we have a couple of those events already, and mainly it's the tour finals, right? And I know that they base that off of 2-year point lists, so tough, right? Tough situation for guys that might only have 1 year's worth of points and don't make that final 8. I think last year I kind of like this event a little bit better because they included some of the legends of the game, which I thought was a cool aspect of it. Like, if there was one thing that I liked, that's That's what I took away from it last year. But to be honest with you, Tim, no, I don't think that events like this are the answer. I mean, I think they're cool. I think that they can, capture somebody's attention who flips it on for a few minutes in their afternoon. But I don't think that it's going to move the needle in terms of overall attention to bowling or in any way change the standing of where the PBA is in terms of entertainment. Rob, do I speak for both of us on that one, or
the only thing that I think would bring what brought out a lot of outside interest was when you would have like some of these really big name celebrities bowling the events. When you had LeBron bowl once, Chris Paul, you'd bring in Mookie Betts.
Yeah, love those. Lil Wayne. I mean, some of the names that they got for those events were amazing and were awesome. And if it's that, and we've said this before on the pod, but if it's of that level, then yes, my answer would change. I do think an event like that helps because I do think something like that can change the image of bowling or professional bowling just with one show, right? Where you have guys like LeBron and Kevin Hart and Lil Wayne and DJ Khaled and Terrell Owens and Chris Paul and other people. I mean, these are a lot of people they had on these celebrity shows. So my answer would change if that's what we're talking about. But in terms of strictly the PBA events, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Tim, I have felt this way going all the way back, and I know you know these shows that I'm going to reference. Some people might not even remember them, but I'm going all the way back to the Great Adventure shows. Okay, I'm going all the way back to like the brand versus brand shows back then. I wasn't a real big fan of it. So yeah, I can't say it enough. Everyone knows what my stance is.
Mike,
betting on bowling is the way. Go ahead, Rob.
So you know what the definition of insanity is, right? Is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Okay. Bowling in the PBA essentially they've been insane in that sense, where all they're doing is they're just keep putting bowling on TV and expecting them to bring new viewers and to bring new people in to watch the sport. And they haven't really done anything different. They just keep putting these step ladders and they keep putting these bowling on TV, and it's the same shows, a lot of the same players, and there's nothing really ever changing, right? Or never interesting. I think how you bring in, and I've said this so many times, is there needs to be a better relationship between the fan and the players. And what I mean by that is, Tim, right? You've been bowling great this year. You were a freaking prison guard, right? And now you're like literally living your dream. And really what needs to happen is there needs to be some kind of documentary crew that comes in, which they're doing right now, but who knows if that's going to now go through with all this going on. And we're still speculating, but what really needs to happen is, to make bowling interesting and to get more viewers interested, there needs to be some kind of documentary crew that comes in and says, hey, let's learn about Tim Foy Jr. Literally follows you to your home, follows you to your old job in the prison, right? Camera crew. Here's my family. Here's how hard I worked. This is what I do on a daily basis. I don't know, that something in that nature where as a fan, I'm going, man, I like this guy. And now when he's on the show, I need to watch him, right? And I'm going to go to the bowling center where he's bowling this tournament at the Players next week, and I need to get his autograph in a picture because I can relate to him, because I've been working, as a policeman for 20 years, and now he's living his dream. That needs to happen. Also, the other part of it, Mike, is there needs to be some different type of reality show that comes in where maybe they put 8 guys in a house and they follow these guys in a house, and there's drama, there's a little bit of drinking, there's gambling, and then they're bowling for something, whatever it is. But there needs to be some outside the box thinking of how to bring in new viewers to these shows, right? Because just putting on bowling on TV is not going to do anything. It's the definition of insanity. And they keep doing it over and over and over again. I don't care. You're two-handed string pins. I don't care, Mike. I don't care. Hard shots, easy shots, high scores, low scores. I don't care. If there isn't people cursing at each other or rivalries or some sort of emotional investment from people, it's just nothing's going to change.
All right. Can I ask you I want to ask a question in response
Sure.
to that, though. Can we talk about possible ways to create that same thing that you're talking about, but doing it through the actual bowling show, competition show? Like what you're talking about to me is a completely different show on top of the bowling show, right? Whereas the way I'm looking at it is you have to build in what you're talking about to the actual show, right? And you mentioned before, like, who your first phone call would be to, and somebody brought up, oh, Shark Tank, and the PBA needs to go Shark Tank style. I'll be honest, my pitch, if you put me in a room with a streaming service, okay, or a network that was interested in picking up the PBA, my pitch to them would be, you like the content we're already providing? Well, guess what? We can provide you with 8 times that amount of content if you really want it. If you really want it. If you think there's a use for it, if you have time to fill, if you're willing to give us the opportunity to produce that many episodes and have that kind of time to tell our stories, we would love that opportunity. Right. So bear with me here, Rob. Think about this. Like, so you go to a streaming service, and in their head, they're thinking, okay, the PBA is going to provide how many hours are they on TV now? A season, maybe 30 hours on TV total. Okay.
I think more than that. Is way more than that.
Yeah, 50. You think 50 hours in a PBA season on TV?
I mean, yeah.
Between FS1 and
FS1, Fox, and they have some other stuff. I think it's, I don't know the exact hours, but I would say it's probably more than 30.
Okay. So whatever it is, right? Let's say 50, just for numbers' sake. Okay. If you go to a streaming service and they're thinking, all right, the PBA, they could provide us with 50 hours of content, right, in their season. What that streaming service doesn't know is that the PBA could provide them with 250 hours of content. They could provide them with 500 hours of content if they really wanted it. If you want to give us the opportunity and the platform to show the qualifying blocks, to show the match play blocks. And to me, Rob, that's where the stuff that you're talking about would come out and could be built in. Like if you get a deal with a streaming service and they let you run wild with it and say, okay, provide us with all these hours of content, my shows would start with the first round of match play. And we would quickly tell the story of qualifying and who made the cut, and we would get right into telling the stories of the people that made the match play. And then show by show, night by night, whatever it may be, even if you have to adjust the schedule to work with the streaming, right? Your people are following that player. They're following that player. You're hearing that player's story. You're seeing that player win round 1, win round 2, win round 3, make it to the show, bowl for the champion. You're following that player, and you're building that player's story.
Mike, I got to share this.
Go ahead.
Because it's kind of what I was thinking, and I'm going to read it. Patrick J writes, if they put an uncensored clip of Simo blowing up, that would have gone viral. The PBA is boring, and no one chirps like back in the day. Here's the thing is, Patrick, I think that the generation of bowlers right now that are bowling are just, that's how they are. They're very quiet. They're not like how I grew up and where I grew up in like bowling or watching action matches in Maple Lanes in Brooklyn, New York, right? Like those guys bowling each other had personality, and you could have made a reality show in 5 seconds off of those matches that I used to watch when I was a kid growing up. The professional bowlers today and these new generations of kids, I don't think they're bred that way, right? The chirping, the talking back and forth. I don't think that's the way they're built, which makes for boring entertainment in a way, right? I see that's why some of these new shows that come on where you have a lot of these newer kids that are bowling, you don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of personality being shown. You don't see a lot of chirping back and forth. You don't see a lot of the entertainment because I just think that's the way it is. And a lot of these people are also friends with each other, and nobody wants to make anyone angry. And there's a lot of other things here, Mike. But back to your original point here of how you're going to package it. I think if first off, back to the Shark Tank thing was making me laugh because I could see Mr. Wonderful absolutely ripping, let's just say Tom Clark to shreds. Because you know what? First thing Mr. Wonderful would ask Big Mike is, what are your earnings and what have your profits been the last 15 or 20 years? And they would read off those numbers, and Mr. Wonderful might fall off the chair. There's no way he would invest in a product like that, right? So, like, I think there needs to be a new spin on the package on how they try to sell it to a new network. If this is the way they need to go, right? And they need to focus on the potential of betting, right? Where there's a lot of untapped resources in territories where bowling hasn't even started to be bet on. The marketing has been zero. There's been zero marketing that bowling could be bet on. There's been zero marketing and promotion on the players to a certain extent, right? I'd say maybe 3%. We have an untapped resource where we have these highly skilled professionals that have not been marketed, and also where betting is a perfect opportunity for people to do it and to get invested. And none of that has been, and we're still getting sometimes on some shows 1 million views on Big Fox.
All right, I want to make one more point here, and if you want to wrap it up after this, we can. Or I'll be honest, I don't feel like we said sort of our piece about the all-star shows in the discussion. I don't really feel a lot of need to separately review those. Here's what I want to say though. In the late 90s, when the PBA was losing its TV deal with ABC, everybody knew they were losing the TV deal with ABC, right? And if you watched that last show, it ended up being Weber against Walter Ray in the title match of that last show. But if you watched that last show, it was a very sad show. The thing that stuck out to me the most about it was Chris Schenkel and Bo Burton coming to tears in the booth while closing out the show.
End of an era.
Yeah, knowing that this was the end of an era. And I have to say that things were that sad, despite the fact that they all knew that the PBA was going to find a new home at that point, right? I feel terrible that
Lewis cried.
And Jimmy's pointing out, did I get it wrong? That wasn't the title match? Okay, all right. But Walter Ray did bowl Pete Weber on that show. I'm sure of that. The sad, things were that sad back then, and the future was a little bit more defined, right? This time around, it seems very tight-lipped. There's not a lot of information out there. If they're not doing a deal with Fox, they certainly aren't publicizing that. If they're going somewhere else, they certainly aren't publicizing that. And I just feel I just feel bad because there's a lot of what ifs here, and there's only a couple shows left for the year. There's only a handful of shows left for the year. And, I just feel like bowling is going to wrap up for this season, and we might not know what the future holds. And I just want everyone to be aware of that. I just think it's only fair to the bowling community and the fans of bowling that still remain and that are still out there, uh, really religiously paying attention to what's going on with professional bowling and watching all these shows. It's only fair to us that we kind of understand that we could be watching with a lot of uncertainty.
Well said. So, yeah, I mean, we just have to wait and see at this point. This has all been speculation. Like I said,
it's a wait and see game right now, right? You're right.
Like I said,
what else are you gonna do?
Nothing.
It's tough for the bowlers. I mean, we're just fans. We're just people who watch it, right? So, like, imagine being one of these bowlers. Imagine being one of these young guys who's trying to, start a career or make a career on tour. And there's this much uncertainty. So, I definitely, I definitely feel for it.
It's funny. I remember back when I was younger, and whenever I told, "Oh, you're making Jimmy cry,"
Yeah, he feels like it's going to end after all these memes. I'm sorry, Jimmy.
No, you could still make memes. Memes aren't going anywhere. I just feel like when I was a kid, I remember when somebody would ask me who knew bowling or was older than me, and I'd say, and I believe this is talking like 97, like 96, right? Oh, hey, I want to be a professional bowler. They'd be like, why would you want to do that? The tour is uncertain. There's no money. You're going to be living from paycheck to paycheck. You're going to be living on the road. You're not going to be doing that. Like the negative perception of going on tour even when we were kids was a lot of the reasons why I never really 100% did it. Right. When I was that age, when I was a 16, 17, 15-year-old kid, which is a sad thing. Right. Because if people around me, and I'm talking like my dad, my mom, and people, older people that were guiding you at that time, if bowling was a very successful business and there was so much money, the tone would have been so different, and my life probably would be different to this day. So I feel bad for the younger kids right now who are now 15, 16, 17 years old. And think about kids like Landon Jordan, right?
It's so much worse now, I think, than it was when we were in that age range where being a professional bowler might have been something that we could have pursued, because that age range for us was probably like 1998 to 2005.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, after you were 25, if you weren't doing it by then, you probably weren't going to do it. Right. So 98 to 2005. And I got to say, like, at least in a period of that time, there were a lot of tournaments. There were a lot more events. They went to an exempt field at that time, but there were a lot more events. I felt like the guys who were out of the top 10 in money were probably doing a little bit better back then than they are now. I mean, I don't know if people have taken a look at the money list this year, but it's depressing. So yeah, I just think it's really tough. And you're right, Rob. I mean, I do disagree with you a little bit, just because I feel like in our generation, going to college was such like a prerequisite for almost no matter what background you were coming from. I mean, by the time 1998 rolled around, how many parents were telling their kids you don't have to go to college? I felt like everyone I knew, their parents were like, no, you're going to go to college. They didn't care what your plan was. You were going to go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. So I feel like at that point, the days of the Pete Webbers and the Norm Dukes and going out on tour when you were 17 or 18 was probably dead, right? And I feel like college bowling was big enough at that point where it was something that a lot of us wanted to go do and experience, because I think it had reached a height. I kind of feel like the years that we were bowling and a little bit after as well was kind of the height of college bowling. Or at least started a longer run of college bowling being a really on the upswing, if you want to put it that way. But
like I got to pull.
I know, I hold it there, but at the same time, you're right. There are a lot of guys who were very talented bowlers. We could make a list and it would go on and on and on, who probably had the talent level and the ability to compete at the highest levels, but just had other really good options as well that were likely a lot easier and a lot more guaranteed in terms of the success. And sometimes the timing, it's about timing, and I think that some guys were in a position where, due to the timing, they had to make a decision that was not to pursue that. So.
Lucas, I had to pull his comment up here. If the odds makers had to put odds on the PBA folding, what would they be? I'm gonna say it's gonna be plus. I'd say it's probably around plus like 1,500, and I think reason why that is because, and for me, that's too close for comfort for me. I wish it would be more like plus 5,000, but
for me, it would be plus 6,000.
Really, I'm gonna say 1,500.
Plus 6,000. I mean, completely
someone's gonna pick it up.
Yeah, plus it would be like to me, it would be like 60 to 1, 600 to 1.
And I think Bowl TV could bail it out for a year or two until maybe they could try to pick up a new TV agreement. I don't know if that would be essentially great, but it is what it is. Yeah.
See, the real danger in that question is just what Jimmy brought up. The real danger is that we cannot forget that Bolero owns this. So right. Well, so if they don't like whatever it is that they get, or where, so maybe we're wrong. I don't know. I hope not.
We'll have to wait and see. All speculation, people. That's what we do here. There isn't anything certain. We don't know anything that anyone else knows. This is just based on Jeff Richgels' article. If you guys want to read it, it says 11frame.com. It's behind a paper wall, but it's worth the money to if you want to be on the know on what's going on the day-to-day on bowling. So we'll just wait and see. And, of course, we'll be here. Mike, we're not folding yet. 6 years running strong. I feel like if the PBA does fold or go away or something doesn't great happen, there's going to be need people to talk about how bad it is. And I feel like we'll probably be the only ones to be able to do that. So, maybe it'll be our time to shine in that aspect. But I'm not rooting for it, obviously. As a fan, the best case scenario would be that Fox was just renews. I think the Fox deal is as good as it gets right now for professional bowling. Big Fox having majors on FS1 showing all their tour stop shows, I think is a great place for them. And I would love to be able to see them sign a 2 to 3 year deal. And yes, Augie writes, we can't fold now. We finally have merch. We do, InsideBowling.com, which reminds me, if you guys haven't seen our dumpster diving shirt yet, it's a good one. It looks like my brother said this, and I was thinking this. The guy coming out of the dumpster on our shirt looks like Mark Cuban. And I was laughing about that. I was just like, because Mark Cuban definitely wouldn't be coming out of the dumpster unless he was bowling a PBA tournament. Then he would be in the dumpster.
Somebody on Facebook said Does it purposely look like Ronnie Russell?
Oh my god, poor Ronnie taking strays for no reason.
Oh my god,
dude.
Oh.
Lucas is saying that PBA new title is Sweep the Rack PBA Tour. Boy, we'd have the PBA Tour humming, Mike. We would have it humming. We would have it on DraftKings, FanDuel. We would have all kinds of betting stuff going on, and it would be definitely a different tour if we were running things. And God help me, I would
Bias in the chat saying Formula One is taking the place of the PBA on FS1. Where are you getting that info from, Tobias?
So he's saying that that the deal is not going through. Then Tobias has inside info in the chat.
Where are you hearing that, Tobias?
Yeah, but I think I would love to be able to sit in a room, right, with the PBA and whoever they're trying to sell, to get on TV. I would love to be in that room. I would come prepared to. Boy, I'd put on my corporate suit, Mike. You'd see corporate Rob in action. You wouldn't see Sweep the Rack Rob in action. You would see corporate Rob in action. I would sell the shit out of the PBA. I would be like, betting. We don't have any of these states right now betting that can. Look at all these. You could get a percentage. You could partner with MGM, Caesars, FanDuel, DraftKings. Could do all kinds of stuff. We could promote some of these. Look at these players. Look at these people. Look at Simo. The kid had he beats to his own drum, Mike. He's a rebel. So I think
I'm going to bring in a bear. I'm going to have them wrestle a bear and then bowl each other.
Kyle Troop wrestle a bear.
If they survive.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about string pins before we get to worst of the week, Mike. I have one comment on string pins. Okay? Here's my one comment. It's either one, the bowling center has string pins. Two, the bowling center closes and you don't have bowling at all. Okay? Look, I don't like string pins. I don't want to bowl on string pins. Okay? But if it's the necessary evil to keep these bowling centers open, or essentially they end up closing, then I'll take string pins and keep the sport growing and keep the sport going and keep the centers open. I don't have to like it, but I'm going to understand why the string pins need to be implemented in some of these centers. So all you people that are on the internet talking about you're going to quit the sport and it's a circus and all of this stuff, I'm not disagreeing, but it is a necessary evil. And by you bitching about it on the internet, it's just not going to really help or promote anything.
Yeah, I think circus is a strong word. I don't think it's that bad. Part of me thinks that it makes you hit them a little more true. Part of me thinks that it makes you hit them, a little bit better. That it's going to control the scoring pace a little bit, which I don't mind.
It does, but I think people have to understand too, a lot of the bowling alley money that is generated, the revenues come from open bowling. And that's
True.
Open bowler isn't going to know the difference between a string pin and a free fall, Mike.
Right.
They don't care. And if it's going to cut the bowling center's expenses down 30%, we've talked about this, then expect string pins to just be more and more prevalent in bowling centers because of that sense. I don't like string pins. If I had to choose between bowling free fall and bowling string pins, I'm going to choose free fall. But from my personal experience on string pins, that yes, that is the case. You do need to be truer. Your ball reaction needs to be on point. It does take urethane out of play in a sense, at least from my personal opinion, because the carry isn't as great as it is on free fall. It's a little bit of a harder thing, and there's going to be a little bit of weird stuff going on. But look, Mike, free falls, there's also weird stuff going on with free falls too. It's just
right.
People are going to have to accept it.
Fair.
That's it.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's do it.
All right, my worst of the week is quick, so I'm going to go first. I got a picture sent to me today.
Mm-hmm.
The picture was of what's that brightly colored storm ball, the gem, the real early hooking one?
Yellow and orange, and
Yeah,
really good.
Gem. Okay.
Yeah, love that ball.
So I got a picture of a gem sent to me, and it was from a local high level tournament. I'll say, I'm not even going to say what tournament, but a local high level tournament. And the picture was of a gem that literally it looked like somebody took a sanding gun to it and was like, okay. And next to the gem was a 240 grit Aberlon pad. Gets worse of the week. Sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
folks. Let's not get out of control. All right. Let's not get out. I mean, I know that sanding balls and surfaces is the new fad in bowling. I understand this. I understand the new fad answer is sand the ball, change the surface. I get it. Let's not get crazy. Okay.
Yeah, these people are out of control with their Aberlons. They don't even know. Yo, I go to these tournaments sometimes, and people are hitting their ball with Aberlons, and they don't even know why or have any idea what they're doing. They're hitting Aberlon pads because they're watching everybody else hit Aberlon pads. There's that guy, Sam. What's up, Sam? 240 weak wrist.
What are you using, Sam? You using 80? You grabbing some 80 pads for the long pattern out there?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could you imagine Sam going to a tournament, crossing with Sam Cooley, and he's throwing an 80 grit, standing 2 like arrows left of you? I mean, that would be just incredible cross.
To me, like, that's when it becomes vitally important to be watching who you're following.
You know what that reminds me of?
All right, like if I'm following that guy and I'm going to that pair, like, you know.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the year I crossed with Terrell Owens at the World Series of Bowling for 5 days, and Ron Hicklin was like ball repping Terrell Owens, and every day he would come with some kind of lower grit number. Like first day was like 1,000, then it was 500, and then like by the third or fourth day he was hitting it with 360. And Terrell Owens obviously is not a professional bowler. He's standing literally an arrow left of me, palming it, and I just like, my look was just kind of shot anyway that year, and I was just like, man, this isn't setting up really well for me. Anyway, all right, Mike, let's go to my I think Ryan called me a fool in the chat, so that's good. They're learning fool, I guess, talking about why I'm asking why everyone's hitting their balls with Aberlon pads, or maybe talking to you for your worst of the week, whatever.
How about this? How about learn to slow down?
I don't think there's any time when you never need to go lower than 360.
I don't think you need to go lower than 500.
No, I would disagree, because I've seen I watched Landon Carnett on the Agent Ong pattern going 360 on his urethane and having a lot of success. And it was probably because of the fact that he was going 360.
That seems extreme to me.
Honestly. Oh, I just couldn't. I didn't have a 360 pad with me, or else I might have borrowed it. But I can't hook the ball like
just
Landon.
Taken it out into the parking lot.
I can't hook the ball like Landon can.
Attached it to the back of your car and drove around in circles.
Yeah,
basically be the same thing.
Anyway, all right, Mike. I'm gonna share mine because I wanted you. I wanted you to ask everybody of what the point of this post is. Okay. So this is like the Pepsi Pepsi Center's Instagram. He writes, "This is how a real Latvian bowls, strike or not." And then this was the video. It's a house ball. Mike, how many pins does he have set up on this lane?
I don't know.
It's probably, you would say, I mean, it's got to be over 1,000, right?
I don't know about that. Definitely a couple hundred at least.
They don't even show he uses like an 8-pound house ball down the middle of the lane. He set up pins up into, for the people that are listening and not watching, he sets up like almost, let's just call it 200, 300, 400 pins all down the lane, almost up into the first set of dots. And he throws an 8-pound house ball and he knocks down like, I'd say probably like maybe 30, 40, 50 pins, and then the video cuts. I just didn't understand the point of this video. I thought it was useless. And at least throw it with some speed. Use Mike. Throw an Oscu type ball, 15-pounder,
Right.
full force speed at this thing and see what happens. And then show the full video. Right? I just didn't see what the point of this whole video was. It just kind of drove me a little bit. Kind of grinded my gears. So I'm giving the Pepsi Center's Instagram account worst of the week.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Mike, you ready to roll?
Let's do it. All right, final thoughts, Rob.
Yeah, tough show tonight. All doing the speculation. So my goal, and I think everybody who's watching or listening, goal should be is let's enjoy the next 2 majors here as much as we can, because there is a really lot of good bowling going on the next 2 weeks. The Players Championship, which is in Jackson, Michigan, starts tomorrow with the PTQs. And then the only thing that is a little bit bothersome about this format is there's no bracket match play. It's just one of those type of majors where there's just a bunch of qualifying. There's 2 qualifying rounds, an advancers round on Thursday, and then they do another cashers round, and then top 16 they bowl match play. Friday, it's 2 rounds of match play, and then they actually have 9 players, 9 making it to the show on FS1. The prelims would be on 7 p.m. I don't know if it's going to be a 9-person step ladder. I don't know if you know that, Mike, or not. It doesn't say on the like tournament notes, but it says that there's going to cut to the 9 players for the prelims. And then the FS1 show is on Saturday, April 12th at 7 p.m. I believe that's Eastern Standard Time. And then Sunday, the live major show again is going to be on noon on Fox. So I don't want to be all negative Nancy and doom and gloom here, but at this point, we don't know how many more we're going to get. We're getting a live major on a big network like Fox. So I think we need to enjoy it as we have it for the next few weeks.
True. Here. Well said. I'll leave it at that. We appreciate everybody joining us. Always, we appreciate the community coming and getting involved in the chat. Hit us up on social media. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 2 on Fit. That's usually where we do most of our chatting. Like and subscribe, please. Check out InsideBowling.com. Use code PatchPirate for 15% off. Check out that new dumpster diving shirt. Love that one. You guys can pick that up. When people ask you what it means, tell them, oh, you don't know what dumpster diving is? You got to check the bottom of the standings first.
Yeah, you're probably the one in the dumpster if you don't know what dumpster diving is.
Yeah, we got PBA bowling back this week, as Rob mentioned. So everybody enjoy, and we will catch up with everybody next week for another show to wrap up the Players Championship. Rob, take it easy.
Later.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.